NVIDIA.
Oh, hey. Yeah, so the Switch 2 was revealed recently. Really big questions that I want to talk about. The first question is, what's up with these tariffs? How is it going to impact pricing? Will pricing ever go down? Is it going to go up? When is pre-orders going to actually open for the US? Will there be a hardware revision, sort of like in the Switch 1 life? And I actually think I know when they're going to release that information. And it has something to do with the Xbox handheld, has something to do with the Steam Deck too. First off, those tariffs. Nintendo actually will not take pre-orders for its Switch 2 game console. This is an NBC News article. I'll just read it real quick. Nintendo will not take pre-orders for its new game console next week, the company said Friday, and that's today, as it evaluates the impact of President Donald Trump's new far-reaching tariffs. Originally, the Switch 2's pre-sale, or I'm thinking about concert tickets now. The pre-orders are supposed to go live April 9th, but it sounds like that's not going to happen anymore. The weirdest thing, though, how did Nintendo not know about this? Because there's also stories that came out that said in Japan you can get a Switch 2 console for USD $330 or something like that. And then there's also like a multi-language model in Japan that costs, closer to what the US people are going to pay. But does that mean that the Switch 2 is going to have a price increase now? Because it seems like Nintendo didn't even understand, or it seemed like they didn't really prepare for this. Because if they had known ahead of time or had thought about Trump and all of his crazy policies and tariffs and all of that, I feel like they would have priced accordingly already. It makes it sound as if they are still thinking about pricing or thinking about other ways to sort of combat the tariffs, but it sounds like the release date will stay the same. Here's a Best Buy's corporate press release page saying that Switch 2 in the US will not start on April 9th, but they'd still say that they're preparing for launch on June 5th, and the stores will be open midnight Eastern time on June 5th. I also wonder if the price will change. That'll be really unprecedented in the games industry. And another note is that Nintendo never talked about the pricing in the Nintendo Direct earlier this week, and they had only shown the price after the Nintendo Direct on their website. That makes me think that perhaps they were still playing with the price point literally up until more recently, and I'm guessing that they had already pre-recorded a lot of the footage for the Nintendo Direct and made all the graphics and things like that months ahead of time. So that's really interesting. If what I'm saying is correct, and most likely it's not correct, but if they did actually come up with the price very recently, as recent as the last few days, as recent as the last week or so, um, that means they were already thinking about tariffs and thinking about the consequences of the global economy at the moment. But again, just a head scratcher that their pre-order date is no longer the pre-order date. But yeah, we'll have to see in the days ahead. Okay, so let's move on to the original topic I actually wanted to talk about. Obviously, there's no OLED, even though we have a Switch 1 with an OLED screen right now. And that's really interesting because I think that ties back into the whole pricing thing. I bet Nintendo was thinking about pricing, and they probably didn't want to hit the $499 and above price, just because usually, historically at least, those consoles had not done very well. During the PS4, Xbox One generation, PS4 launched at $399, and then Xbox One launched with the Kinect at $499. We all know how that went. And then also in the PS3, Xbox 360 generation, the PS3 had a SKU that was like $600 or something like that, and then they were like, go and get another job or whatever. That was crazy. So I think Nintendo has learned from the past in the gaming industry, and probably didn't want to push the Switch 2 price that high for something that is admittedly like super prosumer. Like not a lot of people will really care about an OLED screen, especially when the Switch 2's screen is actually really, really good. From what I've read and from what I've seen, a lot of people that have went hands-on with the device really like the screen, even though it's an LCD screen. It's not an OLED at all, but it's super bright, really vibrant, and it's 120 hertz, which is awesome frames win games, right? So that's probably way more important to Nintendo than the quality of the screen when they can get about 80% of the quality of an OLED with just a really, really good high quality LCD. Um, but there most likely will be a switch to OLED, and I believe it's going to come out in about 3 years. So switch to OLED, bank it right now in about 3 years. And that's like not a hot take or anything, but in 3 years, most likely we'll have an Xbox handheld, and then we'll have a Steam Deck 2 already. Steam Deck 2 probably will come out like next year. Xbox handheld might come out next year or maybe the year after that. Um, but I think they want to align the OLED Switch 2 to sort of compete and actually act as like a marketing beat against those other handhelds that are coming up. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Like in 2 or 3 years, Switch 2 will be probably everywhere, not completely everywhere, but I think it'll be really successful. But though I don't think it will be as successful as the original Switch, just because of the times that we live in now. The original Switch launched at $299 back in 2017. Really novel concept of you know what a Switch One is. So yeah, I don't think it'll really match what the Switch One did. Yeah, that's the idea. I think they'll save the OLED Switch Two for when people are getting really excited for their competitors' handhelds, like the Xbox handheld or the Steam Deck 2. Also, another big one is President Trump is not going to be president in about 3 years because that's the term will end, and hopefully by then, whoever comes into office will sort of fix and or reverse these tariffs. I don't know how it works, but I'm hoping that the next person that goes in office can sort of stabilize the economy. But that's also another thing to think about is because yeah, these world leaders have a lot of control over the things that we enjoy, the things that we buy, and that's just the fact. But yeah, that's my hot take, I guess, is just switch to OLED probably in 3 years, which is not a crazy thing to say, to compete against the Steam Deck 2 and to sort of steal the thunder from the eventual Xbox handheld. It kind of give Nintendo another feather in their cap to sort of be like, hey, look, remember Switch 2 that came out in 2025? It's 2028 now, and we have like that OLED that you really wanted, and it's 120 hertz, and it's still really, really great. So I think that's what they're saving it for, because again, right now it's just too dang expensive to do anything, and they probably wanted to knock the price down as much as possible. And then the final thing is I'm really curious about the just like the internal hardware of the Switch 2. They also mentioned like 10 times the graphics performance of the original Nintendo Switch. That sounds like a lot, right? Like the fact that like you had Tears of the Kingdom running at around 30 frames per second. It would certainly drop when it gets really, really crazy, but that was running at 30 frames per second. Based on the math, is it going to be able to reach like 300 frames per second? I don't know if that's how it works, but will we be able to see Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom run at 120 frames per second at 1080p, 720p, or at least at 720p, because that's what it was sort of made for? This actually explains a lot about what they demoed at the Nintendo Direct. Okay, yeah, so here it is. So here's that demo they showed with the microphone, which is really far away from the player, by the way. Like it's the microphone is all the way in front of the TV. It's probably like 5, 6 feet away, and he's talking into it. Though this dude is like leaning heavy, like gamer lean. This guy's a gamer. And then this guy, like Adam, what are you doing? This guy, like, I'm trying to play a game. You're making goddamn strawberry mango smoothie, which looks delicious, by the way. But I'm playing a game. Why are you being an asshole like that? Um, it's really interesting, and I kind of believe it. Like I believe it because of how great NVIDIA is at AI technology and isolating noise and like upscaling images or removing backgrounds and things like that. Like NVIDIA is at the forefront of AI tech, and we know that they have a chip in the Switch too. So this might actually work. Will it sound kind of crappy? Yeah, but will it sound like understandable, and will we be able to understand this guy? I think so. Like I really want to see how people enjoy that. I really want to see how it works. This makes way more sense. Like she's playing handheld mode and the mic is a lot closer to her, so that makes sense. But I do believe that a lot of these technologies that they're teasing and saying, like DLSS and running at 4K, is going to be legit, just because we know DLSS is going to be really, really great at upscaling from 1080p. Um, will it look the best? Probably not, but it's going to look a lot better than Switch 1. And because of Nintendo's art style, it probably will hit a lot of the performance targets, like 120 hertz, 60 hertz, 60 frames per second, all that good stuff. And again, like if you look at the footage here, if you look at the images of the game share, like all of those images down there are super laggy, and like they're not messing around. Like it feels like this is a real demo that Nintendo used, and so I kind of believe it. And also, small tidbit is having worked in the gaming industry just like for a few years, and having worked in marketing, I know for a fact that Nintendo never ever shows um, fake gameplay in their trailers. It's always captured on Nintendo hardware or Nintendo dev kits. It's always got to be representative of what the console can actually do. And I know some, and there's a lot of gray areas, right, in video game marketing, and I worked in it as a capture person and as a video editor. And there have certainly been times where people would, showcase games and stuff, console games, AAA games, using the highest NPC, but they won't say that it's the highest NPC. I think that's pretty normal. I think a lot of people know that. But in terms of Nintendo, they have a pretty strict policy, at least when I was working, that what you show has to be legit Nintendo footage. They rarely fake. I feel like they rarely fake footage. But yeah, that's kind of the thoughts I had. Really excited for this. I think the AI technologies in the Switch 2 is gonna be super super fun to play with. And Mario Kart Worlds, like the more I see of this game, damn, the more I want to play it. But anyways, that's it. I'm going to do a lot more of these videos just because I'm not working right now, and you're probably not working right now, and everything's really expensive. This is great. I want to talk about video games with y'all. If you have any questions or predictions, or you have insider knowledge, leave it in the comments, because why not? Or like and subscribe. That's also fun too. Look at these people. They're so happy. I wish I could be them. So happy playing Switch 2. I'm just going to go play Switch 1, and that's Splatoon 3. I suck at it.